Today I'm a little bit tired. I went to bed quite late last night and had to wake up quite early also. So please bear with me for today's session. Today, chapter 12 is a very short chapter with just 20 shlokas. But we'll try and read some of those shlokas today. So to come back to chapter 11, which we were discussing yesterday, here primarily Arjuna requests to see the cosmic form of the Lord, and really for our benefit, because how do we know it's for our benefit? Because the chapter begins with Arjuna clearly stating that his illusion is over with. He has accepted that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. He's completely satisfied. He's ready to fight. But then he makes a request, and that request is really for our benefit. And as we were saying yesterday, I think, right, that really the Bhagavad Gita begins in shloka 2.11 and ends with 10.11, with the Chatushloke. After that, really, Krishna doesn't have to speak anything more. But for the benefit of humanity, Arjuna persists and asks additional questions. And here, Arjuna's request is that if the Lord deems it fit, that he should see the cosmic form of the Lord. So the cosmic form of the Lord, as we were discussing yesterday, is not the real form. In the sense, it is not a personality. Let me put it that way. So Lord Vishnu is a personality. Lord Sadashiva is a personality. Lord Narayana is a personality. But this Virat Rupa form is not a personality. But still we are using the word form, because it only exists in the material realm. Hence, it is temporary. Whereas Lord Vishnu is permanent, Sadashiva is permanent, Narayana is permanent with the form. But this Virat Rupa form is temporary. So when the material cosmos winds up and goes back into the body of Mahavishnu, the cosmic form no longer exists, because the cosmic form is nothing but all of Lord Krishna's material energy, Prakriti. Now, Acharyas also say Prakriti is actually eternal. Now that may seem like a contradictory statement. We just got done saying that the cosmic form of the Lord is temporary. But Prakriti is eternal in that she is eternally the internal potency of the Lord. But the Lord chooses to show his manifestation of Prakriti at certain sequence. So creation comes into being initially from Mahavishnu. So if you read the Bhagavatam, it says that when Lord Mahavishnu is lying down on the Karanodakshai ocean, he's also known as Karanodakshai. Karana ocean he is lying down on. When he breathes out of every single pore of Mahavishnu's form, one Brahmanda comes out. And when the Lord breathes in, all of this material cosmos just winds up back into his body. So everything just goes back into his body. So this happens once in 311 trillion 40 billion Earth years. That's the frequency with which creation comes into being, it is maintained, and it is annihilated. Like that. It exists for that period of time. So really this cosmic form, the universal form, it does not exist in the spiritual realm. It's just a manifestation of the Lord to demonstrate to us his opulence. His opulence just on the material platform alone. So, so after Arjuna makes this request, Krishna begins to describe himself. Even before he reveals the cosmic form, Krishna is actually describing himself as if to tell Arjuna, prepare yourself for what you're about to see. And after that, so that is shlokas 5 to 8 is Krishna's description of the universal form. Then in shlokas 9 to 14, Sanjaya describes the universal form. He's narrating what he is seeing. And then from shlokas 15 to 31, Arjuna is describing the universal form. But within that, there is sub-segments that we will just look at quickly. So from 15 to 20, the shlokas 15 to 20 is Arjuna's description of the universal form. And then in shlokas 21 to 23, Arjuna is describing the effect of the universal form on the universe. So he talks about how the sages are perturbed, the demigods are perturbed, everybody is offering prayers, they are nervous, they don't know what is happening. So the effect of the universal form on the universe itself is described by Arjuna. So he is in the mood of awe and reverence from shlokas 15 to 23. And then in shlokas 24 and 25, Arjuna describes the effect of the universal form on himself. How he is feeling. He's scared. He's perturbed. He becomes bewildered. This is after he sees the Kalarupa form of the Lord. So, furthermore, in shlokas 26 to 30, Arjuna sees the Kurukshetra battle unfolding in front of his eyes within this cosmic form. So he sees all those soldiers rushing into the Lord's mouth. He sees Bhishma, Drona, Duryodhana, all of them entering into Krishna's mouth, or into the mouth of this universal form. So he actually sees what is going to play out shortly as a precursor of what is going to happen. As if to say, this is the ultimate result, so you shouldn't worry about it. And then in shloka 31, he asks the Lord, who are you? And what's your mission? Why have you come? In response to that shloka, Krishna says, I am time. I have come to destroy. I have come to kill everybody here, except for a few people. So briefly, Arjuna is confused. In shloka 30, when you read the shloka, it is he's almost describing, he's actually describing Lord Vishnu, but he's thinking the Lord Vishnu that I know is peaceful personality. And that causes him to ask that question 31, which is, who are you and why have you come? What's your mission? So we need to understand that although Arjuna describes some ghastly things in what he sees, we need to understand that the Lord is not literally eating these personalities. So physically, that is what is revealed. But in reality, Krishna is not eating these people. So we need to keep the perspective. It's just a demonstration of the fact that that death is causing their destruction. That's all. It's not that the Lord is personally chewing on these people, because in one of the shlokas, Arjuna says, "I see some soldiers smashed and stuck in between your teeth." It evokes some horrible images in our mind when we read that. So literally, it is not true. It is just figuratively indicating that the Lord has destroyed all that. Through the ages of time, the Lord has put all of these people to death. So then Krishna tells him, get up and fight, do your duty, and at best you can be my instrument because I have already put them to death. You have nothing to do with the end outcome here. So you can just be my instrument. Sabyasachi, and he calls him Sabyasachi. And then Krishna himself talks about Drona, Bhima, Jayadratha being killed. So if you read the Shastras, it says that around 500 million soldiers on both sides were killed on this battlefield. And all the kings on the planet were involved in this battle. They would have chosen one of the sides. So this was not a battle that just happened in India alone, or what we know as India today. If you read the scriptures, Bharatavarsha references the entire planet, all the continents. It's not just the current day India. So this Mahabharat is this great Yuddha. It was a world war, actually. It was not limited to the Indian subcontinent, because all of the kings who were there at that time participated in this war. That's how massive this battle was. But of course, we cannot understand the complexities beyond that, right? Our logical brain says, how can so many soldiers come to Kurukshetra? That's the first logical question we have. So, but this is why it is called Mahabharat, because the entire planet was engaged in this ghastly war. And then from shlokas 35 to 46, 35 to 45 is his prayers, and 46 Arjuna asks to see the four-handed form of Krishna. So we also understood the proper mood for prayer for us is we have to begin by glorifying the Lord. Yes, we must offer obeisances. The more obeisances you offer, you get so many credits. Actually, I was reading yesterday that the Shastras give a lot of examples of what spiritual activity enables you to achieve what objective. So for example, Lord Shiva has composed a prayer on Radharani, Srimati Radharani. And in that prayer, Lord Shiva says that if one takes darshan of Srimati Radharani's palm, just her palm, that it wipes out all of the fears. And the acharyas also say that if one just offers obeisances to the Lord, just dandavats pranam to the Lord, it wipes out all of your sins that you could have ever committed. Not just in this lifetime, but all of your previous lifetimes. Just one Shashtang Namaskar is done. You're done. So in ISKCON, we have some devotees who take a vrat, that they will offer X number of obeisances daily to Lord Krishna. So you can also do that. Like this, there are Uddhava says in Srimad Bhagavatam, if you focus your attention on Lord Krishna's eyebrows, and you meditate on Lord Krishna's eyebrows, you can get rid of all your lustful tendencies. So like this, each part of the Lord's form, if you meditate on that, what is that result that you get? It's actually there in the Shastras. The Acharyas have revealed this. So here, Arjuna is glorifying the Lord. He is offering obeisances. And we also discussed that the proper mode of prayer is to begin with glorification, then express your gratitude to the Lord for everything that you have in your life, and everything that you don't have also. You must be thankful for that also. Sometimes we pray for things, and luckily the Lord doesn't bless us with that. He knows what you actually need. Then we have to beg forgiveness for our impudent ways, for our disobedience. And you can also tell the Lord, prayer is an expression of your emotions, from your heart to the Lord. You can tell the Lord, the Acharya has said I need to chant 16 rounds every day. I am not able to chant even one round properly. Can you please help me? You can also pray to the Lord and say, I don't have taste for chanting. I'm only chanting because Acharya has said chant, or Sadhu has said chant. I have no faith in your name. I have no faith in any of the processes. But I'm doing it as a matter of following the instruction of the Acharya. That's all. So like this, you can beg and plead with the Lord, when am I going to get a taste for your name? When will I cry just by saying your name once? When will the power of your mercy overcome me just by taking your darshan? So like this, you can offer your prayers, your sincere prayers to the Lord. He will listen to the prayers. He is listening to the prayers. Actually, like I was mentioning it in another class yesterday evening, that when you take shelter of Lord Krishna, we all understand that the Lord resides within us as Paramatma. Paramatma is Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, an expansion of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. Garbhodakshaya Vishnu in turn is an expansion of Mahavishnu. So the deity that we worship in Bhuloka is Mahavishnu. So yeah, what was I saying? That yes, so Kshirodakshaya Vishnu exists within us as Paramatma, as a witness. But if you become a devotee of the Lord, Bhagwan himself is residing in your heart, guiding you constantly. It is no longer Paramatma in your heart. Bhagwan himself has seated himself in your heart. It reminds me of a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful prayer I really love this prayer. I'll probably post it today so you can read the outpouring of a pure devotee. There is this personality called Bilva Mangal Thakur. I believe he's from Kerala. originally. And he was a Brahmana, but he used to visit a prostitute every day and enjoy himself like this. So pretty soon he gets addicted to seeing her. He's well versed in the Shastras, but somehow or the other he's doing this other stuff on the side. And one day it is raining so heavily, and he thinks of her. In that heavy rain, he swims across the river, goes onto the other side of the bank, and lands up on her front door. And when she opens the door, she's so shocked to see him. And she makes one statement. She said, if you had the same level of obsession for the Supreme Lord, you would have gone back to Vaikuntha by now. That statement was a transformation for Bilvamangal Thakur. He falls at her feet and he says, you are my Guru. You have spoken the truth. I am a Brahmana, and look at how I have conducted myself. And Bilvamangal Thakur accepts this prostitute as his Guru, and then begins his journey as a Bhakta of Lord Krishna. And in one of his compositions, he becomes blind. Over a period of time, he loses his eyesight. And in that prayer, he says, you know, you are, my dear Krishna, you are known as the thief. You are known as the Vraje Prasiddham, Navanita Choram. That's how the prayer begins. You are very famous in Vrindavan for your thievery. You are well known for your stealing habits. And then one by one he recites how Krishna has stolen his eyesight, he's stolen his family, he's stolen his wealth, he's stolen everything from him. And then he tells Krishna, what is the proper punishment for a thief? It is imprisonment, right? So, Pratibha Mataji, please remain on mute. I don't know why your phone is unmuting itself. So, he tells Krishna, he's having this conversation with Krishna. He's saying, you've stolen everything from me, so much so I have nothing left. So he was leading a life of a beggar, just wandering here and there, you know, constantly singing and praising the Lord. He was completely absorbed in Krishna consciousness. And he tells Krishna, you know, the perfect punishment for a thief is imprisonment. And what better prison can I give you than my heart? And he tells the Lord, I am going to imprison you in my heart. And my heart is this filthy, dirty place. I have no taste for you. And he tells Krishna, I am going to assign you a responsibility in prison. What is your responsibility, Krishna? You have to sit and clean my heart. That's your duty. So it's such a beautiful prayer between a beautiful exchange between the Bhakta and Bhagavan, where he tells the Lord, I'm going to imprison you. In this prison, you will never be able to get out of it, and you'll be very, very busy. You will be preoccupied all the time, cleaning up the muck that is there in my heart. So Acharya say, when you take shelter of Krishna, he resides within you as Bhagavan and not as Paramatma. Paramatma is neutral, you see. Paramatma is just the witness, observing silently all the things that you're doing. Bhagavan gets involved in your life personally. Vahamyaham, he carries for you what you lack. So after begging forgiveness for his casual ways in which he speaks to Krishna, Arjuna then makes a request. He says, can I please see your Narayana form? Because this form of yours has disturbed my mind. After which, Krishna reveals his form as the four-handed Narayana, and then finally, Saumya Vapu. Sanjaya uses the word Saumya Vapu, and so does Arjuna to describe Krishna. He says, I'm finally at peace. I am seeing your original form in as two-handed Krishna. And Krishna says, it's very rare to see this universal form. Even more rare than that is to see the form of Lord Vishnu or Narayana. And the rarest of the rarest darshan is to see the Lord in his two-handed form. So this, what was the single word summary for chapter 11? It was form, right? So we'll come to chapter 12. This is a very short chapter. It's called Bhakti Yoga, which translates to devotional service. Before we begin, let's offer our humble obeisances to His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So let us see what is in chapter 12, which is the final chapter of Bhakti Yoga section of Bhagavad Gita. So in chapter 12, to just summarize, because we're now going to come to the conclusion of the middle section of the Bhagavad Gita, which is Bhakti Yoga. So Krishna in the earlier chapters is saying, all the yogic paths ultimately lead and culminate in Bhakti Yoga. So the first 6 chapters is Karma Yoga. How, if you practice Karma Yoga, you can ultimately reach the platform of Bhakti Yoga. Then chapter 7 to 12 is actually about Bhakti Yoga. The different levels, the stages, the interaction between Bhagavan, the Bhakta, and the process of Bhakti itself. And then chapters 13 to 17 is how can Jnana Yoga lead one ultimately to Bhakti Yoga. So if you look at it, Karma Yoga is actually on the physical platform, right? Which is physically using your body, your senses to do your duties and responsibilities. Whether you're attached to the outcome or detached to the outcome, it doesn't matter here. Essentially, it is on the physical realm because you're using your body to achieve certain outcomes. And this is on the physical platform. So Karma Yoga is practiced on the physical platform, physical level, I mean. It's about enjoyment primarily. Jnana Yoga is practiced on the intellectual platform because you are focusing on understanding the scriptures, and by understanding the scriptures, you're trying to understand God. Now, Krishna has already said by understanding the scriptures, you're not going to understand me. He's already said that. But anyway, because that is also one path, Krishna says. Maybe by reading the scriptures, after understanding who I am, maybe you'll surrender to me one day. So Jnana Yoga is on the intellectual platform. Then Dhyana Yoga is actually to do with the mind. It's all about controlling your mind and your senses. Subjugating your mind such that you can focus on who you are and who is Paramatma. So karma yoga, there is no outcome. Outcome meaning there is no realization there. If you practice jnana yoga, your destination is Brahman. If you practice dhyana yoga, you realize the Paramatma feature of the Lord. And then Bhakti yoga is actually on the platform of the soul. So we started with the physical platform, then we moved to the intellectual, then we moved to the mind and senses, and then we moved to the soul. So Bhakti yoga is closest to the Lord. So practicing Bhakti yoga is actually on the spiritual platform. You remember mind and intelligence is also part of the body, right? It is the subtle body, correct? That's what we learned in chapter 2. You have a gross body and you have a subtle body. So both Jnana Yoga and Ashtanga Yoga are based on the subtle body. So they are not on the spiritual realm. They're not connected to Krishna. Only Bhakti Yoga is on the spiritual platform. Now what is interesting in chapter 12 is Krishna will say, from Karma Yoga, you can come directly to Bhakti Yoga. If you have perfected Karma Yoga, it is not too difficult for you to perfect Bhakti Yoga. But if you're practicing Jnana Yoga and Dhyana Yoga, it will be a little difficult for you to come to Bhakti Yoga. We said it is a ladder, right? Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, and then Bhakti Yoga. But in this chapter, Krishna will make it clear. If you have started practicing Karma Yoga, you can easily switch over to becoming a Bhakta simply by adding Krishna to the process. I think somebody, Sukumar Prabhu, had asked a question, I think, which I probably forgot to answer. My apologies. What was the difference between chapter 3 and chapter 5, right? Chapter 3 is Karma Yoga, and then chapter 5 is Karma Yoga in Krishna consciousness. So Karma Yoga in Krishna consciousness is the same as Bhakti Yoga. In Karma Yoga, it's either Sakama Karma Yoga or Nishkama Karma Yoga. Actually, Karma Yoga, yes, it's Sakama Karma Yoga or Nishkama Karma Yoga. So let's look at chapter 12. As I said, this is the shortest chapter. It has only 20 shlokas. So we begin with Godhead. Who is God? What are the different options? Options meaning the various yoga paths again. Krishna will talk about that again. And then the rest of the chapter, Krishna talks about the 35 qualities of devotees. So shlokas 13 to 20 is about the 35 qualities of the devotees. And the foremost primary quality that Krishna identifies is Shraddha, faith. Every other quality stems from faith or is secondary to faith. So I will just quickly read. What is the question? Arjuna asks a question. So Arjuna inquired, which are considered to be more perfect? Those who are always properly engaged in your devotional service, or those who worship the impersonal Brahman, the unmanifested? So there are two types of worship. There are people who worship the impersonal feature of the Lord. Impersonal means they do not believe that the Lord has a form. Or they may believe the Lord has a form but choose to worship the impersonal aspect of the Lord. And then there is the worship of the form of the Lord, the personal form of the Lord. So essentially in all cultures, not just Vedic culture, there is only two forms of worship. Either you're worshipping the impersonal aspect of the Lord, or you're worshipping the personal form of the Lord. So Arjuna is asking, which of these two is better? Which is more perfect? Is worshipping your impersonal form better or more perfect, or is worshipping your personal form better or perfect? So again, I'll just quickly summarize. There are essentially two forms of worship in all of the material cosmos, not just in Bhuloka. Either you're worshipping the personal form of the Lord, or you're worshipping the impersonal form, impersonal aspect of the Lord that is represented by his Brahman feature. Which are considered to be more perfect? Those who are always properly engaged in your devotional service, or those who worship the impersonal Brahman, the unmanifested? So we understand the Brahman feature to be nothing but the effulgence emanating from the body of Krishna from the spiritual world. And what does Krishna say? The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, those who fix their minds on my personal form and are always engaged in worshipping me with great and transcendental faith are considered by me to be most perfect. So Krishna's opinion and conclusion is very clear here. He is saying, those who worship my personal form, I consider this form of worship to be most perfect. That's it. That means impersonal form, the Lord does not consider that form to be most perfect. So first he emphasizes that worshipping the form of Krishna, whether in his two-handed form or in his expansion as four-handed form, is the most perfect. And then the next two shlokas, he will talk about the worshipping the unmanifested, which is the impersonal feature of the Lord. So what is the Lord saying? But those who fully worship the unmanifested, that which lies beyond the perception of the senses, the all-pervading, inconceivable, unchanging, fixed, and immovable, the impersonal conception of the absolute truth, by controlling the various senses and being equally disposed to everyone, such persons engaged in the welfare of all at last achieve me. So he is not saying that worshipping the impersonal aspect of the Lord will get you quick results. So now can you understand the importance of the Archa Vigraha in the temples as a representation of Lord Krishna? Yes, we can worship Mother Earth, we can worship nothingness. That worship also takes place. But the Lord is saying, engaging your senses in worshipping my personal form is superior. End of story. So, who are these impersonalists, you may ask? So, those who worship the personal form of the Lord are called Vaishnavas, or worshippers of Vishnu. Those who worship the impersonal form of the Lord are called Brahmavadis. Brahmavadis meaning they focus on the Brahman feature of the Lord alone. they are also considered devotees. And then there is the category called the Mayavadis. Mayavadis, actually, the Lord doesn't consider them to be devotees at all, because they don't believe in the presence of the Supreme. That each one of us individually, when we reach the platform of self-realization, we are all one, like that. Now, after saying this, Krishna will talk about the difficulty of worshipping him in his impersonal feature. And he uses the word very difficult, multiple times to let you know clearly, this is going to be very problematic for you. It will be very difficult to understand Krishna by only focusing on the Brahman feature. So what is the Lord saying? Klesho digattarastesham avyakta shaktatyetasam avyakta higatir dukkham dehavatpirravapyate. Krishna is saying, for those whose minds are attached to the unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Supreme, advancement is very troublesome. To make progress in that discipline is always difficult for those who are embodied. Krishna is playing on words here very cleverly. He's saying all of the Jivatmas have form, but when the form is focusing on the formless aspect, they are going to run into difficulties. To make progress in that discipline is always difficult for those who are embodied. Embodied means your soul is occupying this body. You have a form, but you are worshipping the formless aspect of a Lord. Yeah, you are going to get into all kinds of troubles. Trouble meaning advancement is very difficult. That is what Krishna means when he says it is troublesome. Now, can you understand why Karma Yoga can easily connect you to Bhakti Yoga? You simply add Krishna to the equation and then suddenly you're performing Bhakti Yoga. Whereas in Jnana Yoga and Dhyana Yoga, Krishna is not present because there is no service attitude. In Karma Yoga, you may be serving your senses, that is okay. But if you can just add Krishna and start serving Krishna, then you immediately are on the path of Bhakti Yoga. But in Jnana Yoga and Dhyana Yoga, there is no concept of service. So if you're not performing service, how can you come to Krishna quickly? It's not possible. And Krishna is saying is very troublesome. So the reason Arjuna asks these questions is he wants to establish without any ambiguity that worshipping the personal form of the Supreme Lord is superior to all other forms of worship. He also wants to establish his own position as a devotee. He wants clarity. I am practicing bhakti. Am I better, or is somebody who's focusing on the Brahman feature of you better? So he accomplishes two things simultaneously. Personal worship of the personal form of the Lord is superior. The bhakta is superior to the impersonalist. And then Krishna talks about the descending ladder. We'll come to that in just a second after we finish this. Why is worshipping the impersonal aspect of the Lord difficult? Why? Because the individual has to endeavor to control themselves. So as we said, it is like that baby monkey hanging on to the mother monkey. Mother monkey does not do anything to protect that baby monkey. The baby monkey is on its own. It has to use its strength to hang on to the mother monkey. So this is the process of impersonal worship. Very difficult. You may fall off anytime. If you're not strong, if you're not committed, if you're not determined, you will give up. The same analogy of the staircase, the ladder, the rope. You have to rely on your own strength to advance. Whereas for a bhakta, we simply tell the Lord, I don't have any of the strength in me. I don't have intelligence. I cannot control my mind. I cannot control my senses. I am simply going to surrender to you. You please take over. I'll surrender to you. You take over. So this is the mother, the mother cat with the kitten in her mouth. We are just dangling in Krishna's mouth happily, safe. He will decide for us outcome. We are not worried. So this process of impersonal worship, we have to understand the Brahman through Upanishads. We have to learn Sanskrit. It has nothing to do with feelings. Both Jnana Yoga and Dhyana Yoga, you're supposed to practice celibacy, strict celibacy. So, if we are not practicing celibacy, what chance we have of understanding the scriptures? There is no purity in mind. Whereas in Bhakti Yoga, we understand Krishna just by devotional service alone. This is called the Navavidha Bhakti. Navavidha Bhakti, we talked about the 9 ways in which you can practice Bhakti. And Acharyas say you can practice any one of them or a combination of those 9 or all 9. Begins with Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma Nivedanam. These are the 9 ways in which you can practice Bhakti. Any one combination of those 9 or all 9. So Krishna himself uses the word troublesome multiple times to stress the fact that focusing on his impersonal feature alone is going to be troublesome. And we also said there is no relationship with the God. There can only be relationship if you are doing service. That's when the connection happens. Until then, it is very, what can I call it? A very distant way of trying to understand the Lord, from a far off distance. We have to depend on our own endeavor, and the realization is either just the Sat feature of the Lord or just the Sat and Chit feature of the Lord. So for those who are Brahmavadis, they realize only the Sat feature of the Lord, which is the Brahman aspect of the Lord. For those who practice Dhyana Yoga, because they are meditating on the Paramatma form of the Lord, their realization is both Sat and Chit. But their destination is the same. Both of them just hover outside the spiritual universe in the light emanating from the Lord. There is no opportunity to serve the Lord. And therefore, yes, they are experiencing bliss because there is no anxiety anymore. But because there is no service, the chances of them getting bored with just hanging around doing nothing is very high. At that time, they have to come back again. Imagine, after working so hard and striving for liberation, you go all the way up to Brahman. And then from Brahman, you cannot go, you cannot enter Vaikuntha Loka or Golok Vrindavan. You have to come back and take birth. Imagine, so much hard work gone for waste. Bhakti yoga is very easy. Krishna uses the word easy. Krishna says the Bhakti yoga process is very easy, and results can be achieved very quickly. The wonderful thing is that you establish a personal relationship with the Lord, and you have an exclusive relationship with the Lord. So your intimacy with the Lord will keep growing as you practice Bhakti yoga. You'll notice you'll have a lot of conversations with the Lord every day when you're practicing Bhakti yoga. Like Bilva Mangala Thakur was having a conversation with the Lord saying, I'm going to get you. I'm going to imprison you. You may be a thief, and the best punishment is to imprison you in my heart. The worst outcome for you could be in my heart, which is very, very dirty and filthy. And you sit there and clean it. He's telling Krishna, you sit there and clean it. That's your job duty. So this is the intimacy that one can experience with the Lord when you're practicing Bhakti yoga. And Krishna says, remember, Krishna says either you're a pure devotee. Krishna never says either you're a pure devotee of mine or you're a demon. Krishna doesn't look at it that way at all. He's so magnanimous, and we'll understand his magnanimity on the next slide. How magnanimous Krishna is, trying to capture our attention and capture our hearts, giving us so many chances and opportunities to come back to him. So intimacy is the key feature of Bhakti yoga. Contrasting to the other processes of yoga where you have to depend on your own strength, Krishna delivers the devotee. He makes it very clear. We don't have to work extra hard or do anything with perfection. Prabhupada says the only thing we need to do is follow the Acharya's instructions. So the Acharya, as Srila Prabhupada has said, chant 16 rounds every day, follow the 4 regulative principles, the rest Krishna will take care of. You don't have to do anything else beyond that. Yes, offer seva to the Lord. Serve the devotees. Follow the instructions of the Acharya. You don't have to do anything more. Krishna is in control. He's in the driver's seat. And the most important aspect is this form of realization of the Lord is complete because we have all 3 features of the Lord in this realization. The Sat feature, the Chit feature, and most importantly, the Ananda feature of the Lord. All 3 of this is what makes for Bhagavan. You minus 1 of it, it is Paramatma. You minus 2 of it, then it is only Brahman. So you begin with Bhagavan, Sachidananda. Paramatma is Satchit, and then Brahman is just Sat. Our objective is topmost, right? Why should we stop at Brahman? That seems quite silly to stop at Brahman. These 4 shlokas are very, very important for us. So we will read the English translation of the shlokas, and then I will summarize what the shlokas actually mean. So you see here, we'll just read the impersonal feature. So we read the shloka 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 also is related to impersonal and personal. So in shloka 5, Krishna says, for those whose minds are attached to the unmanifested impersonal feature of the Supreme, advancement is very troublesome. to make progress in the discipline is always difficult for those who are embodied. But those who worship me, giving up all their activities unto me, and being devoted to me without deviation, engaged in devotional service and always meditating upon me, having fixed their minds upon me, O son of Pritha, for them I am the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death. So here Krishna is primarily talking about Bhakti Yoga. Shloka 8. Just fix your mind upon me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and engage all your intelligence in me. Thus, you will always live in me always, without a doubt. My dear Arjuna, O winner of wealth, if you cannot fix your mind upon me without deviation, then follow the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga. In this way, develop a desire to attain me. If you cannot practice the regulations of Bhakti Yoga, then just try to work for me, because by working for me, you will come to the perfect stage. If, however, you are unable to work in this consciousness of me, then try to act giving up all results of your work and try to be self-situated. If you cannot take to this practice, then engage yourself in the cultivation of knowledge. Better than knowledge, however, is meditation, and better than meditation is renunciation of the fruits of action, for by such renunciation, one can attain peace of mind. So now we will look at the ladder. What is Krishna's first preference? First preference is become my devotee. Establish your relationship with me. 24/7, Prabhupada says we should be active, trying to serve Krishna. This is Krishna consciousness. Krishna begins from the top and then he says, okay, if you can't do this, can you do this? If you can't do this, can you do this? If you can't do this, can you do this? If you can't do that also, can you do this? So Krishna is going in reverse order. He's beginning with, be my devotee. Surrender to me. Worship me. Constantly think of me. Offer your obeisance to me. Then he says, by the way, 12.8 is pure devotees. Huh? We are not pure devotees. Our mind is not always fixed in Krishna. Then Krishna comes to mixed devotional service. He says, try to be my pure devotee. If you cannot be my pure devotee, come one level down. Just practice what the acharyas have said. Practice your sadhana. Eventually, you will develop a desire to serve me, and you will come to that pure platform of pure devotional service. So for Krishna, it is not all or nothing proposition here. He's lowering the bar for you again and again and again. You can't be a pure devotee. Can you be what we call the sadhana bhakti? Sadhana bhakti means you are beginning your process of chanting, reading, listening, visiting the holy dham, worshipping the Lord. You are not a pure devotee. You are simply following the instruction of the acharya. The acharya has said ABCD, and you're saying ABCD it is. So Krishna is coming one level lower, and he's saying, you don't need to be a pure devotee. Just practice the regulative principles. By the way, what are the 4 regulative principles? I don't think I have covered this before. The 4 regulative principles are as follows. These are tied to the 4 legs of Dharma, which is why it is so important for us to follow these 4 regulative principles and not violate them. If you violate them, then the level of adharma in society will just keep increasing. So the 4 regulative principles are as follows. no meat eating. And that includes eggs and fish. No intoxication. That includes all kinds of intoxicants, including tea, coffee, and cocoa. Then, no gambling. Gambling means you are participating in speculative activities. Then lastly, no illicit sexual relationships. Only under the institution of marriage between a man and a woman. So these are the 4 regulative principles we must all follow. In addition to that, Prabhupada has said, chant 16 rounds every day. And then Prabhupada has also said that try and offer some seva to Krishna every day. Honor prasadam, associate with devotees, read the books, etc., etc. Then Krishna says, let's say if you find ABCD difficult, you don't have time for the temple, you don't have time to prepare bhoga for the Lord, you don't have time to worship the Lord. Krishna says, can you at least just work for me? At least that can you try to do. Slowly you will come to the devotional platform. So you see, Krishna has moved from the 2 levels of Bhakti Yoga to Karma Yoga. He has not brought in Dhyana Yoga and Dhyana Yoga yet. So Krishna is saying, if you practice Karma Yoga, it's easy to practice devotional service down the road. You just have to add Krishna. That's all you have to do. And then you will be practicing sadhana bhakti. Eventually you will reach the stage of purity. We'll skip Shloka 11. I will explain why Shloka 11 is not listed here. Coming back to Shloka 12. Krishna says, let's say you're not able to practice Karma Yoga. Then at least renounce the results, be detached from the results. If you can't do that, cultivate Jnana Yoga, cultivate knowledge of me. If you can't do that, then you practice Dhyana Yoga. So now he's going in reverse direction. He's come with Karma Yoga, and now he's saying if you can't do Karma Yoga, practice, renounce your results. If you can't do that, you practice Jnana Yoga. If you can't practice Jnana Yoga, you can try to practice meditation. Through this, you will, these processes all will end up in purifying you. Through that, Krishna says, through gradual development, you will come to the platform of Bhakti Yoga. So you see how Krishna is telling you, you can still come back to him. If you can't do this, do this. If you can't do this, do this. If you can't do this, do this. Like that. He's saying, I'm still achievable. But you choose one of these paths. So, in shlokas 1 to 7, worshipping the personal form of the Lord is considered to be topmost and superior. In shlokas 8 to 12, the stages of bhakti in descending order, top to bottom. How you can get closer and closer to Krishna by following this path. So in the 11th shloka, coming to the 11th shloka, 11th shloka is actually an offshoot of shloka 10. So let's look at 11th shloka again. If, however, you are unable to work in this consciousness of me, then try to act giving up all results of your work and try to be self-situated. So actually on the slide, this is incorrect. This renunciation of results is actually the 11th shloka. So it's incorrectly attributed to shloka 12. So Krishna is saying, If you don't believe in me, it's okay. If you can't practice ABCD, that's okay. If you can't offer the results of your work to me, that is also okay. But in 11, can you at least give up your results? Whatever work you do, whatever results you give it away in charity. You don't even have to use that charity in my service. You just give it away in charity. So this is, technically speaking, this is not karma yoga. Technically speaking, this shloka 11 is not karma yoga, but the Lord is so magnanimous, he's willing to accept that also. So this is essentially practice of charity. Charity and, whatever else it is, philanthropism, all those isms. So this is how we understand these 4 shlokas, 5 shlokas. Now, Krishna we'll cover these shlokas again just quickly. We'll recite the shlokas actually, since we've already read the English translation. Mayeva mana adatsva, mayi buddhim niveshaya, nivashishyasi mayeva, ata urdhvam na samshayah. Sadhana bhakti. Ata chittam samadhatum, na shaknoshi mayi stiram, abhyasa yogena tato mam ichchaktum dhananjaya. I was listening to a lecture here, and the preacher was saying, why does Lord Krishna use the word Dhananjaya to reference Arjuna? If you read in in chapter 2, Lord Krishna, when he calls Arjuna Dhananjaya, he literally means conqueror of wealth, which means Arjuna actually helps Yudhishthir Maharaj. Whenever they have to collect tax, they have to go from kingdom to kingdom and collect the tax. If the king is not willing to pay the tax, then they have to defeat the king and collect the tax, like that. So in chapter 2, the word Dhananjaya is a reference to Arjuna's activities in helping Yudhishthira. But here, when Lord Krishna is calling Arjuna Dhananjaya, it literally means that Arjuna has achieved the greatest wealth that one can ever have, which is a relationship with Krishna. That is why Lord Krishna is referencing Arjuna as Dhananjaya in this particular shloka. So here he's talking about sadhana bhakti. So what is sadhana bhakti? We follow the instructions of the spiritual master. So elements of sadhana bhakti are as follows. We have to rise early in the Brahma Muhurta time, perform some spiritual activities at that time. As I mentioned yesterday, Prabhupada's preference was that the devotees live close to the temple so that they can visit the temple every day, take darshan of the Lord every day, rise early, attend Mangalarti, do your chanting, and then begin your day in the kitchen with cooking, cleaning, and everything else. First Krishna, then everything else. Chanting Hare Krishna, offering flowers to the Lord, cooking for the Lord, honoring prasadam, constantly hearing Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam from devotees. And for this, you don't need any prior qualification. Anybody can do this, and the results are quick. You do get love of Godhead if you're practicing it in the right mood, with sincerity, with determination, but most importantly, with faith, Shraddha. If you practice sadhana bhakti, you can easily come to the platform of pure devotional service. Then Karma Yoga. Abhyasepyap asamartosi matkarma paramo bhava madartam api karmani kurvan siddhim avapsyasi. So you can engage all of your senses in working for Krishna. Krishna says, work for me. if you cannot work for me, at least give up. Don't be attached to the results. If you're attached to the results, then give it away in charity. Eventually, you'll come to the perfect stage. Atataidap apyasaktosi kartum madyogamashritah sarva karma phalaptyagam tatah kuruyatatmavan. If, however, you are unable to work in this consciousness of me, which is if you're not able to work for Krishna, if you're not able to offer your results to Krishna, then Krishna says, at least whatever work that you did, the outcome, you give it up, give it away in charity. And through that, try to understand what is important in life. There is this beautiful picture of this lady with Lord Krishna. You know, in the Bhagavatam, you come across this pastime. You know, Lord Krishna is a little baby, he's a toddler, and he's observing all of the activities of his mother, Yashoda. And Mother Yashoda, in those days, it was barter system, right? So if you wanted something, you gave something. So there was just an exchange of goods. Actually, interestingly, our Shastras say one should not sell grains. Grains should be given away. So all kinds of violations we are doing in Kali Yuga. One is not supposed to sell grains for monetary benefit. You can exchange it for something. But that's what our Shastras say. But I digress. So in this pastime, Krishna is observing how Yashoda is conducting barter system. If she wants something, she has to give something and get something from somebody else. So he notices that his mother, Maya, is giving grains of rice, and in return, in exchange, she's getting fruits. So Krishna thinks, even I want to participate in this activity. Even I want to do this. You know how children want to imitate their parents. They are very observant. So one day this fruit lady comes to visit. And Krishna very excitedly goes inside the house. With his chubby little palms, he tries to pick up grains of rice because he wants fruits from that lady. By the time he comes out, most of the rice that was in his palm has slipped out. So he barely has 1 or 2 grains remaining in his palm. When Krishna looks at his palm and sees that there is only 1 or 2 grains of rice, he starts crying. He's thinking, Arey, how can I get fruits if I just give her 2 grains of rice? But when this lady takes darshan of this baby form of Krishna, trying to give her a couple of grains of rice in exchange for the fruits, she tells him, I will give you all the fruits. Just once, can you call me Maya? That's what she asks. She asks the Lord to call her mother once. And in return, she says, I will give you all the fruits. It's okay, you have only 2 grains in your palm. And so Krishna very lovingly calls her Maya. Hearing this Mataji is so happy and blissful. She just fills his arms with fruits. So you can see here Krishna trying to balance all of the goods from her hands. In return, when Lord Krishna carries these fruits back into the house, the lady's basket is filled with precious stones. Krishna's gift to her. 2 grains of rice or basket full of gems. Now you may think this is karma kanda, right? She's offered fruits to the Lord, and in return she has received these precious gems. But the story does not end there. What does she do with the gems? Because she's experienced such bliss in just seeing Krishna and offering these fruits to him, she goes to the forest, tosses away all these gems, fills it up with fruits, and comes running back to the house to offer the fruits to Krishna again, just so that she can take darshan of his beautiful vision. She does not know he is God. But the bliss that she experienced, giving him the fruits and hearing him call her Maya, was sufficient for her. She really didn't need any of that wealth. So externally, it may look like karma kanda. I give you something and Lord, you give me something in return. This is bhakti. Not caring for the wealth that the Lord has given you, but you are constantly going back to the Lord to offer yourself in service. This is Krishna. This is that blissful experience, right? So for the rest of the chapter, Krishna actually talks about the 35 qualities of the devotee. You can read it, but the topmost absolute necessity is Shraddha, faith. Faith is not based on sentimentalism. Faith is based on Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. Instructions from Guru, instructions from Sadhu, instructions from Shastra. So that is faith. So faith is not some sentimental thing that you're trying to practice. So Krishna here talks about such a person, such a devotee, who has these 35 qualities beginning with Shraddha. What is their attitude towards themselves? What is their dealings with other living entities? How do they react when things happen to them? What is their dealings with the Lord? Nirmama. The Lord says, the first thing is the devotee understands that nothing belongs to him. No sense of proprietorship. Even if Krishna gives you the greatest wealth, you know that that wealth doesn't belong to you. You are caretaker. You will use that wealth properly in the service of Krishna and not to just blindly satisfy your own senses. Krishna also says such a person is free from false ego. He knows that he is not this body. Gatavyataha, he is free from pain. How is he free from pain? It's not that one may not experience physical health issues or all of that. But he knows that that is also a blessing of Lord Krishna. He understands that this is a cycle, it will pass. Sarva Ramba Parityagi, free from all endeavors, which means he's not working hard like an ass to accumulate things anymore. If he works hard at all, he works hard for Krishna and then offers all the results in the service of Krishna. Which means you and I don't have to give up our jobs. Some of us have very nice jobs with very nice paychecks. We don't have to give it up. But we do it because we can use the results in the service of Krishna. That's why we do it. We are no longer attached to the results. Whatever Krishna gives us, we use it back in his service. Dealings with other living entities. Such a person is non-envious. He's kind to everyone. He is equal both to friends and enemies. Actually, he doesn't see a distinction. This is my friend, that is my enemy. Those distinctions and discrimination disappears. Udhasina, without cares, meaning anxiety free. Always free from contaminating association. Krishna is saying his devotees avoid mundane association as much as possible. Free from contaminating association. Silence. When you have nothing good to say and nothing positive to say, Krishna says better to maintain silence. Don't unnecessarily get into arguments even on topics of bhakti and philosophy. You shouldn't. Just maintain silence. Of course, as a preacher, we have to talk endlessly. One cannot be silent as a preacher. Reacting to situations. He is fully satisfied. He neither rejoices nor grieves over material gain or loss. So if he is encountering challenges in life, physical problems, mental problems, this distress, that distress, he understands that this is just a phase. He doesn't lose sight of what is important, which is his connection with Krishna. He's self-controlled. He neither laments nor desires for anything. He is tolerant. He is transcendental in face of all kinds of auspicious, inauspicious, and sinful acts. He is equipoised in happiness and distress. He is equipoised in dualities, essentially. Anapekshaha, he is neutral. He does not care for any residence, except that he should be living in the house of Krishna. Everything else is just external and temporary. He is Suchi, he is pure, he is Daksha. He becomes an expert in practicing. So one is the qualities of himself, the way he deals with other jivatmas, and now his association with the Lord. He is Dhradavrata, he is determined. His mind and intelligence is fixed entirely on the Supreme Lord. He is always engaged in devotional service. He is fixed up entirely. He knows that this is the ultimate goal and he will not give it up. And by doing all of this, he in turn becomes very dear to the Lord. Yesterday I was saying, right? Prabhupada, what was Prabhupada saying? Don't try to see Krishna. Rather execute your devotion with such perfection that Krishna will come to see you. Krishna concludes this Bhakti Yoga section as follows. Ye tu dharmamritam midam yatoktam paryupasate shraddhadhana matparama bhaktaste tiva me priya. Krishna is saying, those who follow this imperishable path of devotional service and who completely engage themselves with faith, making me the supreme goal, are very, very dear to me. Actually, throughout these shlokas from 13 to 20, Krishna constantly uses the refrain, very dear to me, very dear to me. At the end of each shloka, very dear to me, very dear to me, very dear to me. So he's emphasizing what pleases him, what gets his attention. So this is how a pure devotee captures Krishna. And Krishna comes under their total control, total control. So we can err on the side of extreme emotion, or we can err on the side of extreme rationality and logic. We need to have a fine balance between the two. Our emotional connection with Krishna and using our intelligence to understand who he really is. Right? So we'll pause here, and if there are any questions, I'll take them now. Vancha kalpadarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Jagat Guru Shila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.